Hello everyone, and welcome to the Boo Woo Movie Review, Episode 3. This week we're going to discuss the Lord of the Rings Trilogy. You're listening to Daryl, Tom...
Hi guys.
And Dan.
Hi guys.
And yeah, so we're going to be talking about Lord of the Rings. We've chosen quite a small topic to tackle this week.
Small.
But we're going to
meticulously...
we're going to meticulously go through each film, so we should probably, it'll probably be about 12 hours or so.
The talk?
Wait for the extended edition.
I don't know where to jump off really. I mean, do we start with the books or do we just start with the original film? How do you guys want to do this?
I wouldn't mind starting with the films, to be honest, because
okay. So the Fellowship of the Ring, go for it.
I remember. I mean, because the reason I say start with the films is because I didn't. I mean, it's been 17 years now since they've come out. I can't actually believe that. Yeah, 17. Yeah, 17 years. And I just remember seeing the trailer in the cinema and thinking, like, whoa, this looks amazing. And because there hadn't been anything like that for a while, I don't think, like sort of really good fantasy like that. And
no, not at all. Not since the 80s with like the puppets and things like Labyrinth and that kind of fantasy sort of film. You know, it's quite different, wasn't it? I think
for his time, it was the most epic thing I think that was around.
And
just the scale of it.
And I didn't really know anything about Lord of the Rings before I saw the trailer, I mean, I don't know if you guys did, but I heard about Gandalf, obviously, and but yeah, I didn't know anything.
No, see, I didn't. No, I didn't even know that. I don't really remember seeing a trailer for it or anything. I saw the first one at the cinema, but I went in sort of knowing nothing really.
It's funny you should mention the trailer. I mean, I just in my basic preparation for this, I rewatched the trailer for the Fellowship of the Ring today, and it's not aged terribly well. In all honesty, it's
really,
it feels like a proper 90s trailer, and it's got like the voiceover that's like coming soon.
Really?
It's pretty bad.
But yeah, it's funny you should say that because the films stand up really well today. I think, don't they? Like, I think today. I mean, I was watching it not long ago, and I thought, you know, that scene at the beginning when you first see the orcs. I thought that looked amazing. I thought, obviously, once again, we bringing the CGI thing into it. You know, it was all. I think they did as much as they could. I think Peter Jackson, like, he created the scenes. You know, when he could build them, he built them, and it was all filmed on location. There wasn't really much green screen, I don't think, and like, there was a lot of, you know, with the orcs, it was all makeup, it wasn't CGI, and I just, like I said, that first scene, it still looks amazing. I think you watch it now, and that's
one of the things that I quite like about it. I think with the orcs, especially, like, they're not all CG, like that. You know, they're actually. I think if the Lord of the Rings was made now, like, most of those orcs would be all CG. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Yeah, that just. I mean, I know we didn't want to bring the Hobbit into it, but that just shows with the Hobbit, like, that's what they've done with that, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a step backwards almost, because it takes. You can tell that it's not real, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Like jumping forward a little bit.
That's the same. That's the same with every kind of like when you. I don't know if you take, for example. I don't want to divert, but if you take the Star Wars prequels, for example. Done so many years later, chuck a load of CGI in, and it just doesn't work.
I don't know. It's like these directors are like a kid in a candy shop now, isn't it? Like, it's almost like maybe to begin with they haven't got the budget or whatever to do it, and they fit. But then when they get, you know, when they're given it, and it's like they can't control themselves, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah,
they've just got to shove everything in.
Yeah, they stuff it all in, don't they? Like.
Whether that sort of gets lost in like the vision of the film compared to, I don't know, because when I watch it, you can tell that it's not real, you know.
That's the thing. You could
nine times out of 10, there's the odd scene here and there, and I sort of think, oh, I don't know how that was done. Was that a real thing? And then, you know, there's the odd bit like that, but 9 times out of 10, you can tell that it's CG.
Yeah, definitely. But
and it ruins it.
And with the older ones, you can't. That's the thing. Like, I think you can't. It looks real, doesn't it? And that's why I don't get why they have to use all that CGI. I mean, I know in the old ones, like, they only use CGI when they really had to. I think I read that even the Balrog of Mordor, but even he was
suit?
Apparently that was even that was
really tall person, in a massive suit.
No, apparently Ian McKellen's really short though, isn't he?
Is he?
Really?
No,
Tallest one in it, but he's the shortest one.
No, he's not. But like, apparently, like
What about the hobbits?
They're really tall, really. But yeah, apparently he was all stop. That was all stop motion, like the Balrog of Morgoth.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and apparently all the effects were CGI'd over the top of it. So
That's
like,
good. That's good.
yeah, I mean, so they only really used it when they had to, and I think that's really good the way they did that. But now it's like
you can see
CGI.
the evolution of like technology throughout the three films. Were they made back to back?
I don't know if the second two were made back to back.
I know in the original trailer it says that they're like going to be released on consecutive Christmases, so they like had a year in between. But I don't know were they
They look like they
other?
are back to back. The way they're filmed and the way they carry on, it doesn't seem like there's been any gap, or they carry on very well.
I think they were all filmed as like one big sort of
massive production.
Mm.
Over like the course of like 18 months or however long it was.
Just going back to the whole like building the sets and everything, like you think like Hobbiton, and they built all that, didn't they? Where the where the hobbits, in the Shire and all that. I mean, like now, it doesn't. That's a rarity, isn't it? I think to do what they did on that, and I think that's
to go out, because I remember watching the original behind the scenes on the DVD when it first came out for that one, and they built it and then they left it a year to sort of grow into the nature, and they came
just
back
so
and filmed.
Real.
So that it'd been there and it had been weathered and things like that, and I think, like you said, Dan, that's quite a rarity, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, now with CGI, they just love it. Yeah. They can't get enough of it, can they?
The closest thing you get to that now, I mean, I guess stuff like Game of Thrones goes to a lot of locations to shoot stuff like that, but it's still not. It's not on that scale. But
the funny thing is, though, everyone I speak to, like if you ask them what looks better using the real stuff or CGI, everyone will say that CGI looks a lot more fake, doesn't it?
It always does. I mean, even if you take like these days, they're putting CGI characters in, aren't they? Like people that have died. Or if they want they want them to look younger, they're putting in CGI characters, and I hear people saying, "Oh, they look so good," but whenever I've watched a film, like if you take,
it still doesn't look real, does it?
Spoilers for
Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Rogue One,
yeah, exactly. If you take the characters in that, it doesn't look real.
I think that like when it gets to a point, because it probably will get to a point where it will look very real, and I think it's clever, and I think it's probably a good idea when it does look real. But like you said, it's not going to fool anyone, is it? Like if you watch that and you didn't know they CGI'd it, then you'd know straight away that it didn't look real. There's something not right about it.
Yeah, and it's hard to it's hard to kind of place a finger on what it actually is. But I mean. Because it does look, like visually, it looks very good, but there is just something about, like Rogue One, for example. It's just not quite human, is it? There's just
that's what I was going to say. I think they haven't got to the point where it looks human enough yet, have they? It's very hard to replicate that.
You can tell they're trying to replicate the mannerisms and stuff, but I don't know. Maybe it's because you go from seeing like an actual human character in one shot to a CGI character in the other shot. They just haven't quite got the detail of like how they would act quite right.
I think it works better with certain things as well, like with animals, or like in Lord of the Rings, like you've got the cave troll. I think that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like things like that, they can get away with it more. But
I think people are more willing to suspend their disbelief a little bit when it comes to stuff like that, or even actual animals, than other people.
Yeah, definitely. But going back to, because I saw the trailer in the cinema, and then I thought, this just looks really good. And when I saw the film, I think I saw each one. I must have seen about 2 or 3 times in the cinema.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because it's my type of film. I really like fantasy anyway, and like I said, there hadn't really been anything like that for a long time. Like you said, I used to like the old stuff like Willow. Do you remember Willow?
Willow is amazing.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching it and just thinking I just thought it was brilliant. And
I actually I didn't see the first one in the cinema. I wanted to, but I never got around to it. I only first saw it on DVD. So I mean, from my perspective, I don't think when I watched it probably had the impact that it should have had on me.
No.
But I actually grew up listening to the audio books of it. because my dad was really into it. So whenever we'd go on a long car journey, I'd be subjected to listening to the Lord of the Rings audio novel.
That's pretty cool. That's good.
I mean, I was always pretty young at the time, so I don't think I understood it fully, but enough that when the movies came out, I got, I picked up on bits of it and was like, oh yeah, I do remember this and that and stuff.
That's good. That's good. Because I've never, I've got the books, but I've never actually read them. I've got in like one volume in a red cover. I've got just the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I've never actually sat down and read them. And I think I don't know if it's just because I've seen the film, so I think I don't know if I'm going to enjoy the book as much. But I think the length of them also it puts me off as well.
Yeah.
I mean
the films are long enough.
I know what you mean about seeing a film. When you've seen a film, sometimes it does put you off reading a book, doesn't it? Because you think, oh, I know this. Like,
yeah, that's it, exactly.
Because there's been a few books. I mean, there's films that I love, and I think I'd love to read the books. I know there's a lot more in books and this and that, but sometimes I think I know the story too well.
Yeah.
But like I said, I didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings when I saw it, and because I loved it that much, I sort of got really intrigued by it, and I bought the book as well, and I've read most of it. I haven't actually read it all. But it is really good what I've read. I mean, I've read about 3/4 of it, and there's a lot more in the book, but I think that he's done a really good job with the films. Like, normally I'd say
that's the general consensus, isn't it, that he's adapted it really well.
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job, and I think, like I said, normally when I read a book or read a book after, I think, whoa, this is so much better. But I still think the films are really good. I do think the book's good, and it has got a lot of other stuff in it, but he's done a good job. He's done a good job with the films.
You sort of look at that. You look at the kind of wealth of text that's in there, and you just sort of think, where would you even start to sort of?
It's incredible.
Without kind of going page by page and thinking, right, okay, I'm going to film it. And I saw with an interview with Peter Jackson, he just said if they literally had gone page by page and just lifted it into a script, it just would have made no sense whatsoever. So they literally, they had to redesign.
I've thought that so many times about adaptions of novels, and when they have to take a novel and then make a screenplay out of it, like the parts that they've got to pick out and how they've got to change things to actually make it work as a film. Like when they've got to choose what to take out, if it's still going to make sense as they go through it. It must be a hell of a task. Way more than just like doing a film off the bat.
Yeah, because people don't really think about that, do they? When they say, when they made a film and they think, oh, it's not this and that, but it's not as easy as just taking it from the book, is it? Like you said, a lot of the time it won't make sense, will it? If you just try and take it straight from the pages. And because I was reading something that when they sort of shot it where Frodo and Samwise go off on their bit, and then they show the different sides, don't they, like Aragorn and Legolas and all that, and it sort of cuts between the two, doesn't it? But in the book, I think it shows you read all the one part at once, and it cuts to the Frodo and Sam bit, so instead of it jumping backwards and forwards, you get, do you know what I mean? So but in the film that wouldn't really work, would it?
So it's actually in a different format.
I think so, yeah. I think I read that, but in the film you couldn't do that. You couldn't show all of the Frodo and Sam bit, could you? And then
you get like an hour of like
just the two of them,
and like all of that bit, and then all of a sudden it'd be like a different film, wouldn't it? It'd just be like,
Lord of the Boar.
Anyone see? Because obviously before this version came out, that there was an animated version from, I think it was from the 80s. And I think it was all in. I might be wrong about this, but I think it was all in one. I think it was one really.
That's right. I've seen
not that long.
Yeah.
Is it not?
It's not. It's for. I think it's sort of reasonably long. But when you think about it as that the book's so big, then yeah, I mean it misses quite a bit out. But they didn't actually finish that, did they?
Oh, did they not? Oh, okay.
They didn't. No, because they didn't have something to do with the funding. It stopped at a certain point and they never finished the end. So I think it's just, I'm not sure if it's just writing it then you read of what happened or but yeah, they never actually finished.
I was just looking on here. It's the Lord of the Rings 1978 film. So budget was $4 million. It took $30 million at the box office. So it must have been a pretty big film at the time.
I think it's just Lord of the Rings in general. Like people, it's so popular and it's loved by so many people. The story, I think, so I think people are just going to see it anyway because if you're into Lord of the Rings, But
I mean, when I first watched it, I remember watching it at the cinema, and then when I watched it again on DVD, I one of the reasons that I wanted to watch it again on DVD is because I really liked the beginning part of the Fellowship. I really like the bit in Hobbiton, and when they're just sort of living their day-to-day lives. And when I was watching that, originally, when it got to the bit where they actually left the Shire, and even in the extended version, when it left the Shire, I was kind of a bit like, oh, the film's changing a bit now. I could have easily have watched a whole film just around the Shire.
I definitely agree with that.
I agree with that. I
still
as well.
think the films are amazing, but
I'm not sure about watching the whole.
All the fun in the build up to that to the fireworks and stuff.
It's a massive change in tone of the film, isn't there? From when they go from the Shire, and if you think about it, through the whole 3 films, that's the only part that's quite. It gets very dark after that, doesn't it? That's the only sort of quite peaceful part, isn't it? At the beginning in the Shire, and
I suppose it works really well though, because it does a really good job of setting that scene of like this is Frodo's life, and it's it's nice and jolly, it's fun, it's all calm and relaxed and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they're just ripped out of that life on this massive adventure that they're really not prepared for.
Yeah, because they kind of show like the safety of the Shire, don't they? And like everyone gets along, and even the people that don't get along, it's all kind of done in good taste, sort of thing, isn't it? And it kind of builds up that world. It's quite a nice sort of community, I think, to be around. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you're kind of thrown into this world outside that's full of tall people and
it's a scary world out there.
But and also you sort of get to learn more about hobbits, don't you? Like it sort of introduces their way of life and how they're what sort of characters they are, like quite peaceful, always try and stay out of trouble. Do you know what I mean? And
you just reminded me, actually, like when you said about like you learn about hobbits. Like when I was a kid, I think I remember I'd heard of the Hobbit, and I think I'd heard of the Lord of the Rings, but I didn't really know anything about them. And I think for some reason, I don't know why, I think I assumed that a hobbit was some sort of like rabbit or like some sort of like creature that lived like on this hill. I don't know. I think
you got some of that right.
Like
a gnome or something.
I couldn't like envision in my mind like the now when you say Hobbiton, you imagine the circular green door and all that kind of thing, little gardens and things. Like in my head, it didn't look anything like that. It was a hill with a tree on the top, and there was a hole, like a rabbit hole, that one of these things lived in.
I wonder though, like how they were actually designed in, like, as in how they were supposed to appear. Like I know they're obviously like little people, but. Have they been made to appear more human? Should they look more like little dwarfs or something? Or
I think it all depends how you interpret it, doesn't it? Because when you read the book, I don't think it sort of describes them like they are in the film. I think, but once again, it's all how you interpret it, isn't it? But I think they did a good job of that. I think it more or less sort of just they're like they are and sort of described in the book. I think. But
I just wondered whether for the sake of movie audiences, whether they thought we'll just make them little people. Whereas, like in the book, maybe they should have been like actually more like
what the features you mean, like a bit more sort of a
bit more non-human or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I remember one thing about the first film, the Fellowship. Before we go on to the second one, I was just going to say, like I remember when I saw it at the cinema at the end, I thought it ended really abruptly. I wasn't ready at that point for the film to end. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when they just like walked down the rocks and then it faded out, I was like. Oh, what? It's just like...
Frodo, no!
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. There is that, I suppose, yeah.
But I reckon... I like the way it ends, actually, because it's got like that sort of battle, hasn't it?
I don't think people were really probably that prepared for this trilogy of films. Like, I don't think it had it been done before, where they'd, like, split something up like that intentionally?
I don't know. It's sort of like... it's sort of kind of expected now, almost, isn't it, with films? But back then,
I think it's this series of films that... really have prompted that.
I think Harry Potter came out at a similar time, didn't it? I think that's I'm not sure if that came out before the first.
Actually,
one,
that's
a very similar time.
But they
wasn't
were
it?
almost like self-contained films, though, weren't they?
Yeah,
like, I know they had obviously
right.
like an overarching story, but it's almost like
and also they had different directors and things like that. But yeah, I read originally that it they were going to try and make it into one film originally. When Peter Jackson was brought on to direct it,
can you imagine how different that would have been?
Apparently, he went to one production company that was originally going to do it, and they said they wanted to do it all in one film, and then apparently they said 2 films, and Peter Jackson was like, no, I'm not going to do it in 2. So then I think this other production company took it on, and then they said, yeah, we'll do it in 3 films.
Then he does the same with The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny book.
But the thing is, though, it's almost like they've gone the opposite way with The Hobbit. You know, it's like, right, we've got 3 films here, we're going to make it into one. Three books, we're going to make it into one film. Yeah, and then you got 1 book. Oh, let's make it into 3. You know?
Yeah, I know. I think that's ridiculous in my opinion, but we're not talking about The Hobbit, are we? So
no, we're not. We're not. Sorry.
Get into that.
So The Two Towers. Then, when that came out, I've got to say, I was kind of less excited about the second one. Maybe I'm the only one to say that, but I enjoyed the first one, but I wasn't like really anticipating the second one. I think maybe like a lot of other people were, and I don't really know the reason for that. I don't know if it's just because I didn't see as much on it. Maybe I didn't see as many trailers for the second one.
I probably agree that I wasn't anticipating it as much, but that's going to be because I didn't see the first one at the cinema, so I wasn't that hyped for the next one. Once I started to see the trailers for it, I got a lot more hyped up for it. I don't know whether it was because there was already a visual difference between the trailer for the second one and what I'd seen in the first one. It looked like an improvement. Maybe it just, I think, because the second one is the Battle of Helm's Deep, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the main. That's the main sort of.
I think maybe that featured heavily in the trailer and stuff, and I think it just, once I saw it, it got me a lot more hyped up for it.
It's got a different sort of tone to it, the second film, hasn't it? I mean, like the first one's more of an adventure, isn't it? Where the Fellowship gets together and there's the 9 of them and they all set off, and
it's a bit more jolly, the first one as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Like you said, it starts off in the Shire. It's a lot more jolly. The Fellowship of the Ring is my favourite one out of the 3, actually.
It's a bit more upbeat, isn't it? I think they're a bit more excited about the journey and the adventure, aren't they?
Yeah, it's got the whole adventure aspect, and then you've got there's all these different races getting together to go off and protect Frodo and try and destroy the ring. But then obviously that gets broken, doesn't it, at the end of the first one? So the second one's obviously it's going to be quite different anyway, because obviously watching the first one I didn't know anything about it. I thought, maybe when I first heard about them getting together and trying to destroy the ring, I thought all 3 of them was going to be them setting off on this massive adventure. I didn't realise that it was going to get broken at the end of the first one already, and then they sort of go their separate ways, don't they? So, but yeah, I mean, the second one is probably my second favourite, so it's probably in that order, like the first one, the second one, and the third one's my third favourite.
One thing I will say about the second one, though, even though I didn't see it at the cinema, when I didn't go and see it, and then when it came out on DVD, I watched it at home, and the opening scene, I didn't know anything come out of the second one going into it. I didn't know the story, I didn't know what, and the opening scene with Gandalf, where it shows you. I thought that was it. I thought that was it, that he was out of it, and I'd rewatched the Fellowship of the Ring before the Two Towers, and then when that opening scene and you see what happened, I was just like, I was just completely blown away, and I was just like, why was I not more excited about this film? Why did I not go and see this at the cinema? I was really sort of blown away, and I was kind of drawn into the second one.
That's probably a good way to approach it. It's better to be pleasantly surprised and like really, really happy about the film than the other way around.
True.
So.
Sometimes I find if you're not expecting it to be good, there isn't all this build up and you just go in and watch it and don't expect a lot. Sometimes I find you're surprised even more because, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
When people hype stuff up, you're like,
especially these days,
there's all this hype about it. You go and see it and you're like, oh, yeah, it's not
so much more than like years ago. I mean, I think when this came out, I think the hype grew as the films came out, probably, but. I mean, when the first one came out, I don't remember feeling that feeling of hype. I don't. Maybe it's because times were different. Maybe the internet wasn't as prevalent then, and you didn't get to see like trailers left, right, and centre and stuff. So I think it's just the way things have gone.
I agree with that. I see on YouTube now, with the what is it, Revenge of the Jedi's, the Star Wars, and
Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Sorry, yeah.
The Last Jedi, the latest one, or
I haven't seen any trailers for that. I've just completely avoided it, and I'm going to the cinema a couple of times over the next few weeks. So no doubt I'll have to like close my eyes and shut my ears when I get, because I don't want to see anything on it. And they showed too much in the trailers, and but like I see on YouTube now and things, as soon as a trailer is released, everyone has to do like a breakdown of the trailer, and they have to go through. You know, there's like hour-long videos of people going through trailers, like scene by scene. Oh, I think it's this, and it's like, well, why? Like you're showing yourself the entire film before you even go and see it. It's just, I don't know. It just takes the enjoyment away, I think.
I think it's like Tom said, the internet, like, because it's grown so much, and like basically everything's done on the internet now, isn't it? Like, Facebook, YouTube, it's another way to get. You think these people put it on there? It's another way to sort of like get views as well, isn't it? And things like that. When they think, oh, there's a new trailer, I can break it down and things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's
But to get the hype out there now, you even see they do trailer teasers. So now you get a 15-second like teaser trailer
saying that it's coming out, or something.
And saying that a trailer's coming soon. You know, they're doing a trailer for a trailer to get you even more.
Yeah, I just don't understand that. I understand it from a marketing perspective, but I just don't. Like I said, like a couple of films I've seen, like the second Amazing Spider-Man film that came out and things. I mean, you know, not talking about what it's like or anything like that, but I didn't watch any I went into that not knowing anything about it, and I think I enjoyed the films more when I don't see everything on it. You know,
I think it's you're right. I think if you can do that, then I think you probably will enjoy it more. The less you know about it, I think you can just go in and watch it. But I can't help it, to be honest. I think they know that. Do you know what I mean? Like when I love a film, I can't help like looking at as much as I can about it. I just
maybe that's it, and maybe that's why everyone does it. You know, they want to know before. But
I think it's they know people are going to watch it, don't they? And you know, to be honest, if it wasn't there, it'd probably be better because I wouldn't know so much about it. But because it is there, I'm like, good, go on there.
I've tried a few times to avoid trailers and stuff, but especially when you go to the cinema and you watch like other films and stuff, unless, like you say, you close your eyes and your ears. But I've tried that, and I still end up hearing bits and stuff, and like, or I'll open my eyes at the wrong time or something, and then it's ruined. So it's too hard to do.
I remember when we went to the cinema, Tom, a while back, and there was a trailer that came on for the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I just closed my eyes. I wasn't listening to anything, and then like, you know, the 2 or 3 minutes or 4 or however long the trailers are now,
10
went by,
now,
and then you just leant over and was just like, yeah, it looks good. And I just thought, well, that's good. That's good that, like, I know that, but I haven't actually seen anything on it. And it's, you know,
how wrong the trailer was.
Yeah, I think you.
No, we'll save this for another podcast, but I think it's an underrated film.
Oh my god, it's a terrible film.
I liked it.
I'll leave that there for you to think about.
The only good thing about it is the rhino.
It was fine. Do you think an orc would have been better?
A what, sorry? An orc?
He would look more like a rhino.
And you said it looked more like the Green Goblin if it was an orc.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway,
what do you guys think of the cast for the Lord of the Rings?
Ian McKellen's perfect.
See, I think a lot of them were like unknown. I said to me at
I was
least.
Say that.
You know. I knew Elijah Wood because I'd seen films with him in before. Like there's a Disney film, I think it is, called North.
He was in The Good Son as well.
He's in Forever Young and Huck Finn.
The Faculty, come on.
The Faculty. Yeah, so I knew him, and then I knew Samwise from The Goonies, which was like 15 years before or something. But that was about it, really. I don't think I'd seen Ian McKellen in anything. I've seen him in loads of things since, but
he was in X-Men, wasn't he? But I knew him from X-Men.
True. Yes, I had seen him in that.
But
actually,
I agree with you on. I like the fact that they were quite unknown. There were a lot of them. I heard that one time they were going to cast Russell Crowe as Aragorn.
No.
I mean, but I think Viggo Mortensen's perfect as him anyway. But he'd been in a lot of stuff when he was younger, but he was more of an unknown actor, wasn't he?
I'd never heard of him.
Like,
no, I hadn't seen him in anything, I don't think.
I'd seen him in 1 or 2 things, but like he wasn't. I think the majority of people wouldn't really have known who he was. But yeah, I think I quite like unknown actors. I think they work quite well. I think sometimes you throw a load of A-listers in there. I don't think you need to really.
Yeah.
I think the casting was really good actually, and it was acted very well as well. I think.
Yeah, because who else is? Sean Bean's in it, isn't he? He plays he plays quite a big role actually in the first one, doesn't he?
Yeah. Sean Bean does his lovely death, yeah.
Yeah, has to be done.
That's one of my favourite scenes actually in the first one. I think that I love that.
It is really good. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like the fight scene at the end, and apparently Viggo Mortensen. You know when he's fighting the Uruk-hai that at the end.
Yeah.
That fight scene. Apparently, you know when the Uruk-hai throws the dagger and he blocks it with his sword.
Yeah.
Apparently, he actually did that.
Really?
Viggo Mortensen. Apparently, he wanted him to throw the dagger at him, and that was the first. He blocked it, and that was the first time. Apparently, the first shot of him throwing the dagger. So it was the first time, and he blocked it. I thought it was quite,
hella dangerous, but good.
Yeah.
You might not have made it otherwise to the rest of the films. Step in Russell Crowe.
Did you know that the Fellowship of the Ring is a PG certificate in the UK?
Yeah, because I know what you mean. Because they actually cut his head off, don't they? In the first, like Aragorn cuts his head off.
When I saw the first one, and with Sean Bean at the end, like we were saying, like his death, like he gets like 3 arrows put into it.
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty bad
I think
for
that's
PG.
quite. But I guess maybe because it comes under fantasy. But yeah, I thought that's quite strong, isn't it? And the orcs
and also
as well,
the orcs, they're quite gruesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
And like when the Uruk-hai are being sort of made, and they rip them out those like
like the
sort
pod things, and they're like tearing all the
that sort of egg
stuff off
thing.
them.
And then it looks like the Predator a bit.
Yeah.
yeah, it does. And you don't see anything, but they torture Gollum, don't they? Before he tells them like where they are and things, and like I think like I don't know really. I don't know how hard that would have been for them to have. But then I suppose the original Star Wars was a U, wasn't it? And you've got someone gets their arm cut off in that and things. So I don't know really.
But yeah, I'm glad they didn't tone it down on that part, because I reckon it makes it better like that. The fact that it shows that stuff. And
but then what was in the Two Towers and Return of the King that upped those to a 12?
I think it was just more. I think the battles were supposed to be more intense and just bigger. So, and I guess to have like full on war kind of battles, then they're going to have to show some stuff.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
The extended versions as well. If you guys have seen the extended versions.
Yeah, I've got them all on DVD. Yeah, I've seen them a few times actually. The extended ones. That's all I watch now. Is the extended ones.
I think
I've not got around to watching Return of the King extended.
Oh, it's like 4 hours.
Yeah, you should watch it though. I think it's like another hour. It's the longest. I
could barely sit through the theatrical version. I literally went to get up about 4 times, thinking it's got to be the end now, and it wasn't. There's another scene at the end of it.
Oh, you couldn't have liked it that much.
No, it was really good, but it would just fade out, and I was thinking this is a good place to end it. And I'd go to get up, and then there'd be another scene, and I'd be like, "Oh no, my ass is killing me. I need to get up."
But the thing is, I've heard a lot of people say that about the ending, and I disagree with that actually, because I think you've got 3 like long films. They've gone on this massive adventure. They've gone through all this stuff, and I think you need like a good ending like that where it explains. I want to see what sort of happens to them after. I don't want it just to sort of cut off an end. I think that like you go, the third one's not any longer than the other 2. It's not like, because we're going to put this massive ending in, it's like an extra hour long. It's still the same length as the other 2 films. I think that like they go back to the Shire. You see like no one knows what's really happened in the Shire. You see what happens like to them. Like obviously Sam marries that. Hobbit girl.
I can't remember what her name is now.
And I don't know. I like that. I think because I hear a lot of people say this about the ending, and I just one.
Do you think maybe it could have been done
that.
sort of differently though? I think the fade ins and fade outs maybe threw people a bit, because normally when you've got like a fade out, especially like towards the end of a film,
I think there was only sort of one big fade out, though, wasn't there? When after they've
I think because they sort of
come out of Mount Doom, they're waiting on the rock, aren't they? And then it sort of fades out.
Then rescue them, and it kind of fades out. And then I think, like you said, it shows them in Hobbiton. They've gone back to their normal lives. But then I think it kind of fades out again, doesn't it? And then it comes back in again to show like
that's probably when I went to get up.
What happens after? Yeah, and I don't know if it felt like they were kind of wrapping up each part of the story, which I guess is like you said, for such a massive epic, you need to do that.
Because
I won't. I won't.
Because I think with the book,
I won't deny it was satisfying.
Once they've come back,
it closed it really well. I just thought maybe it could have been a tad shorter.
But I think with the book as well, because there's quite a lot after they get back. There's quite a big chunk of story, and it does go on about how. Because I think Frodo leaves. Well, it shows that in the film anyway.
Yeah, he sort of sails off, doesn't he, when he's got older? Is that right? Oh no, that's no. Is it? Oh yeah, it is Frodo, isn't it? Yeah, that's no. Who was it? It wasn't Frodo. It was.
Yeah, it's Frodo. Yeah, it is. That goes to the with the elves, doesn't he? To the I can't remember what it's called now. The something land.
Who's his uncle or whatever? The guy that writes the story.
Bilbo, yeah.
Bilbo. Yeah, Bilbo's with him.
He doesn't. He's got much older, hasn't he? That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I suppose another thing with the films, you don't get that sense of time so much, do you?
Yeah.
Because like with the book, there's lots of periods where like it's supposed to be years later. Like I think when Gandalf goes to find out about the ring, he's supposed to have gone for like 9 years or something like that, or before he comes back.
Yeah,
so I think the ring's supposed to be in the Shire a lot longer than like what. It doesn't really matter because obviously you can't do that in a film. I'm not saying that's anything wrong with the film. I'm just saying you don't obviously get that sense of time.
It's just details that they feel they don't need to address, I suppose.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it really needs to be in the film, actually.
Yeah. Rosie Cotton, that was who Samwise married.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's it.
I had to find out, otherwise that was going to bug me. But, yeah, I mean, overall, I think they're probably... Next to Back to the Future, they're probably like one of the best trilogy films I've seen, I think.
Yeah, definitely one of my favourite trilogies, if
they're
not my favourite.
They're certainly going to be
trilogy.
remembered, aren't they? They're never going to like fade away and be forgotten about. They are like legendary.
It's like I said, I think you watch them now, and in my opinion, they still look really good.
Yeah.
Like I'd say that The Hobbit's newer, but if I watch Lord of the Rings, I'd say that looks better. Like we've already said this, but I think it looks.
I think if you ask anyone, I mean, obviously The Hobbit is something for another day, but I think if you ask the majority of people, then they're going to tell you that they prefer the original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if you guys know, but like because Tolkien's, I don't know if it was his son or daughter relations, but like he sold the rights to Lord of the Rings, and it was only for I think it was only for about 15,000 or something.
Wow.
Which
Absolutely
is like
nothing,
really. But I know that his family, they weren't happy with the films. I think I remember reading that.
Okay.
Because I think that I'm not sure if it's different to what they interpreted, or I don't know, but they were like really against.
So they didn't have any input then towards the studio or Peter Jackson.
No, nothing, and I don't think they didn't like the films. I think I remember reading that. Yeah, so it's just a little fact.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, that is. That's quite. I didn't know that. So that's quite interesting. I wonder sort of how long it will be before we see remakes of these films.
I think it'll be a long time.
Like. I always think that. Yeah, I always think that as well. Actually, I always wonder I wonder when they're actually going to do them again. But yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a while, and I always think it would have made a really good series. I always think
definitely.
That they could have made a really good
like
series
Game
out
of
Lord of the
Thrones,
Rings.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, but a bit more family friendly.
And I think if it was made again,
I
think I would like to see that if it was made again, maybe a series.
Yeah. I think that
I could see them doing that one day over like a remake of like a film.
Yeah, I think it's more likely.
I suppose the thing with these films is they're so big, aren't they? They're so kind of epic, and they took so much money. Everyone knows about Lord of the Rings. I think in IMDb they're all in like the top 20.
Yeah, and it still stands up today as well. Do you know what I mean? You watch them, and it's not like you look at them and think, they're too old. They need a remake. They still look good. They're still good films. So it's. I mean, it's hard to believe it's been 17 years, isn't it?
I know. Really? When you said that at the beginning, I can't believe that.
2001, the first one came out. Yeah,
and I think there's a subset of films that, like most people would probably say, that's never been remade. And like I think Robert Zemeckis said it about the Back to the Future films. Is like they'll never do a sequel as long as I'm alive. No one's getting the rights to them. They'll never remake it. They'll never do anything else to it. It is what it is. And people are happy with that. And I reckon that people would probably have the same opinion of these films.
Yeah, because I suppose the fan base is so big, isn't it, for these? It's
And also, you got to remember that there was no Lord of the Rings films before this. These were the first ones.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It's not like, you know, you had a series of Lord of the Rings films before and they were good, and then they brought, you know, like with the Titanic, they brought so many of them out over the years.
Yeah.
Other films that with these were the first ones, and they were done well. They were made very well. So that's, do you know what I mean? That with the Back to the Future thing, like you said, that was very original. It was the first.
The thing is, these were
defined
from obviously a series of books, but they kept it contained to that series of books, and that's they left it as that. Obviously, yeah. Then you've got The Hobbit later on, but if they were to make this series of films now, know that it would be, how can we spin this off into something else?
Yeah, like Frodo would get his own little spin-off film or something.
How much comedy can we add?
Yeah, it's kind of true though, isn't it? You know, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it would be different, I think, if they were made now. You know, but
yeah, and CGI as well. It'd be over the top.
They'd make it a comedy.
I think you're right though. I think with the CGI, I think it would be over the top, and it would be it would probably be comedic. Like the dwarf in it, you know, he would probably be like with the dwarves in the Hobbit movies, you know, they're tumbling down and they're going in those barrels and things.
I forgot about that. Yeah, true.
It's all over the top, isn't it?
Yeah, and it would be more like that, I think. And it doesn't make it good. You know, it makes it worse.
I just don't understand what goes through Peter Jackson's head, because obviously when he directed Lord of the Rings, I absolutely loved that, and I thought I was really happy, because originally it was supposed to be I don't know how you pronounce his name. Is it Guillermo del Toro?
That's
Toro?
Right, yeah.
And I was like, because I thought I wanted Peter Jackson to do it. I thought, you know, he's done Lord of the Rings, he did such a good job of that.
Yeah.
And then obviously when Peter Jackson got the job to direct it, I thought, oh, that's really good. And then I don't get how he goes from like creating the whole sets and doing what he did with that to suddenly going over the top with all the CGI and making it so different. I don't.
Yeah, maybe that does just show a shift in cinema, and you know.
Yeah, but sometimes I think these directors maybe want to do it before, but because they haven't.
I think
maybe they don't have the budget, or they don't. You know, as soon as they get given the opportunity to do it, it's like, oh yeah, like they just love stuffing it all in there.
I think sometimes they're under the misconception. They're under the misconception that technology has got to a point where it will look that good, but it still doesn't. In my view, anyway.
And it takes you out of it.
Yeah.
Because everyone I talk to says that, you know, CGI doesn't look that real. So if we know that, how can they not know that? Like, how can they not see that?
It's one of those things that I've wondered about for so long. Like, I look at films and I think, how have you made that and not realised that looks terrible?
Because the amount of effort he put in Lord of the Rings to make everything he could use as less CGI as possible. Do you know what I mean? And then go from that extreme to suddenly ramming it full of CGI.
Do you think maybe that he didn't actually really want to do the Hobbit films as much, but he felt obliged to once Del Toro dropped out?
I don't know, to be honest. I thought he did, though. That's another reason I think that they made it 3 films, though, is because I thought maybe he thinks this is my last sort of opportunity to direct one of these films. True. So, do you know what I mean? He tried to stuff as much as he could into all this content that really shouldn't have been in there.
I mean, the other thing, do you think, like, you know, CG has obviously come a long way, but, you know, the only reason it's come a long way is because it gets featured in films, and because it's, you know, there's a progression, isn't there, to technology, and, you know, it wouldn't be where it is at the moment. You know, it's never going to get any better if you don't kind of push the envelope with it, and you know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think until it gets to the point where it does. Yeah, but okay then. So, like you were saying about the Hobbit, when they're all tumbling down and all the exaggeration and stuff like that. Fair enough, use CGI, but don't use it in such an exaggerated way.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
You don't have to sort of too much.
Like you said, going over the top and tumbling down. Like with King Kong, we directed that after, and you got all the dinosaurs like rolling down the hill and like falling over each other, and what's the point of that? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's
like I know what you mean. It's just too much. It makes it stupid. Effectively, it makes it comedic, or it just takes the realism out of it. Yeah. Or
just unrealistic. Yeah, it just totally takes the realism away, I think.
I think that's a whole topic on it in itself, isn't it? Really, you know, the kind of, you know, effectiveness of CG, and, you know, when it's been used and not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Well, that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to give us your comments and check out our Facebook group. I've been Daryl.
And I've been Dan.
I've been Tom.
And this has been the Boo Woo movie review, and we'll see you on the next one.
Boozing.